Welcome, welcome. Ciao, this is Davide, Alaska to Patagonia. I've been cycling around the world for the last over 4 years now. And today I want to talk to you about what I learned about cooking system, the different options you have, and the one I use. There are basically 5 cooking systems that you can use when you camp, when you wild camp, when you stealth camp. And we're gonna see 3 here, but let's talk about the two missing here. The first one is the most simple, is to make your own fire very close to your tent. You should try to enclose it with stones and make your own fire pit. And the disadvantages of that system is that it requires time to set it up. You need to find wood and logs, twigs to start a fire, and not many people know how to start a fire properly. It's very easy. You need to educate yourself to contain the fire as well, because you can easily spread and you can burn an entire forest or fields. The other disadvantage is that it takes a bit of time. You need to find a support also for your stove, and also your pot is gonna be very very dirty. You cannot regulate the flame, so it's very difficult to simmer. Personally, in August it will be 5 years that I'm doing this adventure. I never light a fire at night, and mostly because these disadvantages that I talked about, and also because when I do wild camping, a stand camping, the last thing I want is to light a fire that is gonna put like a big ad that says there is someone camping there. When I do wild camping and style camping, I don't want anyone to know where I am. So the last thing I want is to light a fire. But I know that some people like it. The other option that is missing here is uh, uh, stoves that are usually made in aluminum or steel, that basically contain your fire. So you also need to find the twigs and little logs that you can put into like a sort of a canister and light your fire and use it to cook it. And the advantages is that it's self-contained, so you're gonna it's very difficult that you're gonna spread your fire and burn down a forest. um, it can also support your stove, and it's also much more energy efficient than a fire pit, so it cooks quicker, it boils quicker the water. The disadvantages is that you have to find twigs and logs and start this fire, and if you are in places where it's very humid or it's been raining for weeks or months. It could be like in Alaska that it rains pretty much all the time in certain periods of the year, or in Patagonia, it's very difficult to find dried wood. Next, I'm gonna talk to you about 3 different type of stoves with 3 different type of fuels that I used in this adventure and even previously. The most simple one is the alcohol stove. You can do it yourself DIY using some soda cans. It's very easy. You can find some information online, or you can buy a model like this one that comes with 3 different pieces. The burner, where you put the methylated spirit or the alcohol in certain, depending on the country where you are. And this model, I bought it on Amazon for like 3 or 4 euros, I think 6 or 7 years ago, and it comes with the lid that it's has a seal o-ring, so you can leave your fuel once you finish to cook for the next day. You don't have to empty it, and this is basically a lid that helps to turn off the flames once you're done cooking, and you can also use it to support your stove. The advantages of this stove is that it's very cheap. It's very simple to use. You just put some alcohol, methylated spirit, you light it, and you're good to go. And the advantage of alcohol and methylated spirit is that if you touch it, it's not really toxic. The disadvantages of this stove is that it takes forever to boil water. So while one of those stoves in 3 minutes they boil 1 liter of water, this might take like up to 20 minutes or more just to boil some water. So if you want to cook some pasta, it will take forever. The other disadvantage is that you cannot regulate the flame. Once you light it, it will go full speed, and there's no way to simmer. So it's either full on or it's dead. There's no middle ground. Another disadvantage that we need to consider is that in certain countries it's gonna be very difficult to find alcohol methylated spirit. Why? Because in certain Muslim countries it's illegal to sell alcohol. Um, Also in countries where you can find alcohol and methylated spirit, sometimes it's not pure. So you find only 70% pure alcohol, 80% pure alcohol, and if you use that kind of alcohol, it will take forever to boil. Even some eggs might take like an hour. So you have to find alcohol, methylated spirit that is at least 90% or above, uh, and it's very difficult to find. Sometimes you find it, but they sell it in bulks of like 5 liter tanks when you only need like half a liter, 1 liter maximum. Another thing that I want to point out, if you store alcohol in a multi-fuel bottle, you're gonna damage the bottle because those bottles are not designed to carry alcohol. It will eventually bore some holes into the bottle because the coating that they have inside is not made for methylated spirit of alcohol. So just keep that in mind. Other than that, it's good, it's practical, super economical, and if you can find alcohol and you're not bothered with the cooking timing, it's a good choice, and it's gonna be a sensible choice. Some people camp 2-3 hours before sunset and they don't bother to having to wait for a little bit while they cook. I prefer to camp at sunset or even much after the sunset. So when I set up camp, I just want to cook very quickly, eat, and hit the hay. So then we go into much quicker stoves, and another simple stove that is very lightweight and very simple to deploy is those gas stoves that you screw into canisters. That's done, it's deployable. See? And you can light it within seconds. The disadvantages of this system is that you have to buy gas canisters, and they're not very cheap, and they're not very easy to come by in many countries. In developed countries, usually you find stores where they sell them. Also in Latin America, there are countries where you find them quite often. But other than that, they are difficult to find in a large number of countries. Um, the advantage of this stove is that also you can simmer because you can regulate the flame with this regulator, and it's very light. It's only like 78 grams, I think. This is a Pocket Rocket 2. MSR has a newer model that weighs maybe 10 grams more. I think it's called Pocket Rocket Deluxe. That I would suggest that one because it's a little bit more efficient than this one, and also the pot sit in on I think on a bigger support, and I knocked down a few times my pot when my quinoa was was ready after cooking it 15 minutes. So Yeah, a larger support, a few grams more. The newer model would be nice if you like this kind of stove. Also, you have to know that when you are in very cold temperatures or at very high altitude, um, these canisters, these gas canisters, are not that efficient. They lose a lot of efficiency, and when the canister is coming to an end, you never know how much you have left. So it's a guessing game, and sometimes it's very difficult to extract all of the gas that is inside the canisters. I bought this one in Turkey because I broke my multi-fuel stove, and I just needed something very quick to use in Turkey, and I knew I was not gonna cook all the time, so for me it was convenient to buy one of those canisters, and these are a small one. There is a smaller one, and then there is usually they are this big, and then there are the biggest one that are double, and they are this size. The cost of this stove is about 35 euros or dollars. As I said, it weighs about 78 grams if I'm not mistaken, and the newer model, the Pocket Rocket Deluxe, is probably 10 grams more. Now let's talk about these other kind of stove that are called multi-fuel stoves, and they are the choice of many adventurers, many bike travelers, and they come in three pieces basically that you have to assemble. You have a fuel bottle that you open when you want to cook, and you insert this pump. This pump creates pressure by pumping, and then you attach it to the stove. And the good thing about the multi-fuel stoves is that they run on on a variety of different type of fuels. They run with white gas, which is the best fuel for these stoves because it burns clean. It burns very clean. You can hold your stove. There's no residual. There's no residual on the pot, and so different type of fuels. We said white gas, that is expensive and is difficult to find in some countries. It's in other countries it's you can find it everywhere, and it's very cheap. Could be like Peru or Chile. You can find it pretty much at every hardware store, or in places where they sell paint. In some countries it's illegal. In Bolivia it's illegal, but you can find it in some hardware stores, very expensive, in La Paz. In Ecuador it's illegal as well, and it's illegal why? Because they use it they use it to produce cocaine in in this part of the world. They use it to treat the coca leaves to produce cocaine. I'm not sure the process, but that's what I read. Um, then it can run with normal petrol or gasoline, car gasoline, petrol in the UK or in Ireland. Um, it runs on kerosene, naphtha, diesel, uh, pretty much any oil product it will run on those. Um, there are some of those they burn dirtier than others. So when you use a fuel that burns a bit dirty, it will leave a residue on your pot, but most importantly, it will tend to clog your stove. So every now and then you will have to do a maintenance where you will use basically a little nail to remove clogs into this little hole where the fuel comes out. They work basically when before you light it on, you have to prime it. So you have to make this part of the pot very hot. Once this is very hot, once you open the fuel, it will basically become a gas. It will burn like a gas, and the stove will make basically a blue flame, and that is very efficient. How do you prime it? You open you Depending on the fuel that you use, but if you use petrol, gasoline, white gas, you only need to open it for a few seconds. This part will get wet with the fuel. You light it, and the burning of these few drops of fuel will make this part very hot, and then at some point you just need to open it, and uh, and it will uh, and it will burn very well. The other advantage of this type of stove is that they usually have a support that is quite large, so there's no way to knock down your pot. It's very stable, and usually comes with an aluminum shield to shield the pot from the wind. You cannot shield this system from the wind, because if you close it, the heat from the burning might start to heat up the canister, and it might explode. So um, that's something to consider as well. There are different type of multi-fuel stoves. This is an MSR model. There's basically two main brands. It's Primus. I think it's a Swedish company, and then there is MSR, that is an American company. MSR has a bunch of different models. The most famous one is the Whisper Light, and the Whisper Light Universal costs a little bit more, but also has a lid that can connect to canister stoves, so that could be a great option. Instead of having to choose between one or the other, you can get the Whisper Light Universal, I think it's called, and that model can connect can screw into these type of canisters as well. This model, it's the Dragonfly, and I really like the Dragonfly because it's one of the very few ones that you can simmer. So you can fully regulate the flame from a very tiny flame to a very fierce flame. This type of stove will boil the water in about 2 minutes, 1 liter of water in about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, more or less. At high altitude, it works, and also at cold temperature, it still works quite well. It might take like 10 or 15 seconds more to boil the 1 liter of water. For cooking, if you like cooking, uh, a multi-fuel stove that can regulate the flame is probably the best choice. Also because you can find fuel very cheaply everywhere. You can find 1 liter of petrol everywhere in the world for like €1, €1.50, 50 from 50 cents to up to €2, I guess. And one bottle, this is almost a 1 liter bottle. There's a half a liter bottle. There is the 333 cc milliliter bottle, and a 1 liter bottle, it will last if you cook twice a day. It might, depending what you cook, obviously, and for how long, but it might last you like from a week at least up to two weeks of cooking. Hopefully you learn something today. If the information were useful to you, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell for the notification. I'm gonna keep publishing tutorials and reviews every Wednesday or Thursday, and a vlog about my world bike tour adventure on Sundays. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!